Hey friends, you know, one of the best times of year to catch big smallmouth is the fall. It's probably my favorite time of the year to chase big smallmouth. The reason why you can power fish them.
Holy cow!
There's a lot of misconceptions that you got to use little baby baits for smallmouth. And there's times where that truly is, that's what you want to use. But the main thing in the fall, the reason you're able to power fish is the size of the forage that a smallmouth chases, it just goes up. Whether it's giant goby or giant perch or big crawdad, when a smallmouth decides it's time to start eating before it gets frigid cold, you can rough talk them. You can use 20-pound line and braided line and 20-pound fluoro, and the biggest thing is the fall is when I upsize all of my baits, because a smallmouth, the biggest misconception is he won't hit a bait that's big and gaudy. Two different ways I attack the fall, and you all know this, is there's early fall, which is generally water temps are, when you get that first cold blast, call it 65 degrees down to 55 degrees, and that's when I'm gonna be predominantly 10 foot of water and less, okay? That's when they're on a major shallow feed generally, and really three different baits to me that are, they're absolute powerhouses for power fishing smallmouth. Number one is a bladed jig. And I really started throwing this a ton for smallmouth pretty much in the last 3 years. The great thing about this is heavy line, and you're able to cover water with it. The other thing I noticed about a bladed jig is it catches the ones, right? Where you can sit there and you wind it, and it's one of the most ferocious strikes I have ever felt in bass fishing.
That ain't good.
The next bait, which is just an old school jig, is a spinnerbait. This right here is this is a Strike King burner spinnerbait, really small blades. Again, you're able to cover water.
Wow! Good one. Oh my God!
Long casts, burning a spinnerbait.
That is awesome.
When you're fishing for big smallmouth in the fall, you want your baits moving, right? You don't want to sit there and lollygag around. Don't get me wrong. After I catch one on a thunder cricket or a spinnerbait or the next technique that I'm going to talk to you about, then I'll go back behind them with maybe a drop shot or a tube. But basically, the three most critical baits for me in the fall, when they're shallow, an umbrella rig. And one of the biggest misconceptions about an umbrella rig is it's kind of a really cold water, deep water gig. I have caught so many big ones up shallow, 10 foot of water and less, burning an umbrella rig. The thing is, you want to cover water when it's 65 to 55 degrees. And the main thing I'm looking for, okay, big, giant flats that have isolated stop signs. I visually see the majority of the targets that a smallmouth will get on, whether it's a weed clump, a giant boulder, where sand meets a patch of gravel. One piece of cover meets another, somewhere where they will stop. And generally, they'll stop and they'll congregate together.
Yes. Oh, I just hit another one.
You're kidding me. On the opposite side, when it dips 55 degrees to 45 degrees, that's when I'm gonna go deeper. I'm gonna be 50 to 30 feet of water. And the main thing that I will start doing is I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna slow down a little bit, but I'm gonna use size of weight, rate of fall, to where I'm fishing notoriously a slow way. I have a big weight, like right here is a 3.5-inch coffee tube. That weight will just to the bottom. To me, when you up the size of your weight late in the fall, you know this, the majority of times when the smallmouth hits a bottom bait, whether it's a tube or a drop shot, he hits it really on the initial fall, right? Wow! Well, the more times my bait falls by the end of the day, the heavier it is, the more bites I'm gonna get by the end of the day. So I'll generally start with a heavy tube, a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce tube. And unlike the summertime, if I'm drop shotting, I'm gonna drop shot, again, a big bait. We talked about power fishing off the start with a bladed jig, a spinnerbait, an umbrella rig. I'm gonna power fish with finesse presentations. I'm gonna throw a big drop shot bait. That's a Z2. I'm gonna throw a real heavy tube. I'm gonna use this on a 1/2 ounce weight to where I can cover water, and more than anything, I'll up my line on my finesse presentations this time of year to where I can manhandle them. Last but not least, I'm gonna go back to the umbrella rig for late fall, out deeper. And I mean, you are just, when you throw this out there, you can get it to the bottom and you're just crawling it. Some of the best days I've had in the fall start with this. Generally, my umbrella rig is my eyeballs to find them, whether I'm shallow or I'm deep, and then I'll switch up my techniques. And basically, when that water temp, unlike when I was fishing 10 foot of water and less, what I'm really looking for in late fall, 55 to 45 degree water, slow, tapering, deep flats. Cover to me does not mean anything. What I'm looking for more than anything in late fall, stuff they can put in their mouth. Crawdads, perch, alewife. The main thing to take away from this, basically I covered early fall, I covered late fall. Some of the best days I have ever had in my entire life in the fall. The main thing I could tell you, cover water until you collide, and don't be scared to use giant baits power fishing for smallmouth.